well, let's do this thing. So, a lot of my recent content has to do with weighted vests, and a lot of my argument with the weighted vest stuff is not overblown. I'm also not underselling it. I think when you look at TikTok influencers, your bone density mass is going to increase somewhere to the rate of you'll essentially become Wolverine with adamantium tight bones with increased density and basically unbreakable bones by wearing your weight vest, and it goes all the way to it's going to burn an extreme amount of weight and you're going to lose tons of fat instantly, right? To taking the science in reference to that and then underselling it because no one in evidence-based likes weight vest being overblown. It's snake oil, doesn't work. And here's the numbers, right? Only burns 1 calorie extra a minute, doesn't increase bone density that much based on science. So it's utterly useless. In both of those arguments are kind of unhelpful. One is on the realm of taking us away from doing more. The other is kind of taking us in the direction of spinning our tires, but is producing people who want to do more. And if I was to pick one, I'd probably pick the influence section because they're basically saying, hey, add this thing, do more stuff. The evidence base is like, hey, that's not going to give you that much results. But does it give a result is kind of going to be the question asked here. So I'm going to just highlight my article. You can definitely go and read this, but my overview is simple, right? I like to take what the evidence-based people have, and we have studies on it. Does the weight vest burn more calories? And the answer, if we look at simple article, but the gist of it is it actually this one? The question was, does predictors of fat oxidation and caloric expenditure with and without weighted vest for running? Okay, and what they found was that it does indeed burn more calories, especially at about the 10% mark. Both increases fat oxidation and increases calorie expenditure by roughly about 1 calorie a minute, and that's running. But again, that doesn't sound like a big number and it's easy to undersell, but how I like to look at it is if you're looking at long-term results, weight loss maintenance strategies that are going to kind of pile on what we're currently doing and what we're trying to push at high flux, then I think the vest is very handy. And the math does add up, right? And so let's look at what that looks like. I kind of have a few charts, but essentially here's the benefits, right? Increased caloric burn with lower load, fat oxidation shift. Basically, can you use and utilize more fat at lower intensities? This helps that, right? It kind of just increases the intensity without increasing it so much that we start dipping into carbs. And so no sex differences, that's kind of important, not important, but basically it's kind of the same for everyone to some extent. But let's look at that in reference of walking, right? Because in terms of calorie burn, if we're looking at running, right, we're looking at that's the only way to kind of do this thing. And a lot of what High Flux is doing is we're trying to push overall activity and activity minutes, not necessarily with just running, but with building low intensity, scalable stuff that is somewhat time intensive, but is also able to cumulatively add in day over day over day with effort, results that are going to be sustainable with a tool that you can both sustain, right, and is cumulatively going to add up over time and works, right? And that would be walking, right? So let's just look at in terms of if we take 60 minutes a day, so 1 calorie, and I'll kind of put this for walking in a second, but if you do 1 day, it's 60 calories, right? Not very much. The equivalent of 0.017 pounds. 1 week, 420. 1 month, 1,800. 1 year, 21,000. Okay, that's 6 pounds. That's 6 pounds that if you already are running, let's just say 60 minutes a day, which again, probably not going to happen, but we have endurance runners and all that kind of stuff, but the math works. It's not much, but it adds up over time, and this is where the argument for, okay, let's look at it with something that isn't running, right? And something that, if we look at Americans, North America, I think it's like 4,500 steps a day. Okay, not much. if we add even 1 hour of walking, it's roughly, I don't know, 4,000 to 6,000 steps depending on the person, but 60 minutes, right? And if we look at extra calorie burn running, okay, and running at a 10-mile clip isn't necessarily fast, but you do need some fitness involved. It's only about an extra calorie a minute. Well, just walking at 3.5 miles per hour, which is not crazy, right? It's about 0.68 calories a minute. Let's look at what that math adds up. Something that's scalable over how much time do you have in a day to fit that in. And I'm not going to get into argument, could you fit in walking in a day? Is it going to crush you? Listen, if we have to answer that question with that's not sustainable, like, listen, this is probably the wrong video for you. So let's look at the math for someone who isn't that person. And we'll just look at the simple math and scale it from there. 30 minutes a day, 7,500 calories, okay? 60 minutes a day, 14,000 calories, or almost 15. 90 minutes, 22,000. 120 minutes, 29,000, okay? That's on top of the extra caloric burn you're already going to get for that. And so we're looking at how much fat is that. So in those durations, 30 minutes, and this is walking, but you can look at the comparison with running. Walking, 2 pounds at 30 minutes, 4 pounds at 60, 6 at 90, 8.5 at 120. That's on top of if we already added in walking, which is going to have its own weight loss. That's not touching calories at all, okay? That's pretty good. So if we look at long-term metrics, now we're starting to see, hey, this adds up over time. So does a weight vest, is it going to help? Is it going to, so in terms of claims, is it going to make your bones turn into metal? No. And that's a video for another, well, that's a topic for another video, because I don't believe that the science really looks at that question very well. But in terms of, can it burn more calories, right? 100% yes. If we look at it at, does it burn more calories in a minute? It looks small. It's 1 calorie. But you could argue doing anything for 1 minute is going to produce a small number. What it actually looks like is we're producing quite a bit of a gain on top of something that's already helpful. Scaled over how many minutes you have a day, I think is super, super helpful. And again, we're talking walking, not even just running. So let's just take it down a notch. Does walking burn less calories than running? 100%, right? But in terms of scaled to how much extra does a vest add to those equations, we're talking very similar numbers. So now we can start to collect extra calories and extra results, hopefully with something you're already trying to include. That's free money in the bank. And again, when we look at what strategy is going to be helpful, obviously the fitness aspect, the activity aspect is going to be number one. But if you can get a multiplier, and we talk 10% body weight, not a crazy amount for something extra we're adding in. Listen, do weight vests burn more calories? Yes. Should you invest in a weight vest? Well, if you're already investing in time, divvy to probably walking, right? I don't think that they're going to be that helpful for running. I think it'll burn more calories, but I think running mechanics alone is going to make it not ideal for what that's trying to train, right? When we're running, we're generally trying to increase the adaptation of running. When we're using walking as a metric to increase flux, but basically substantially increase need over time, I think adding a multiplier like a vest does enough without pushing intensity and adds that extra calorie burn on top of a strategy that we can add time over time, day over day over day, without a huge recovery cost. It's a win.